Ladies and gentlemen, in a world that constantly demands our attention, our response, our voice, it's easy to forget the strength that lives in stillness. We're taught to speak up, to stand out, to stay loud. But what if true power isn't found in being louder than the noise, but in choosing to rise above it? What if clarity, alignment, and peace don't come from chasing everything out there, but from turning inward? Today isn't about motivation through noise. It's about grounding through awareness. It's about remembering that when you focus on yourself and stay silent, things begin to shift, not because you force them, but because you've created space for the right things to find you. This isn't about isolation. This is about intention, about knowing when to engage and when to hold your peace, about understanding that your energy is sacred and you don't owe it to chaos, distractions, or anything that pulls you away from who you're becoming. So let's talk about the quiet kind of power, the kind that doesn't need to prove, only to align, the kind that doesn't need to announce, only to exist fully. Because when you move in silence, focused on your own path, the world has no choice but to adjust. We live in a world where attention is currency. The more you broadcast, the more it seems like you're winning. But what if the real power, the quiet, grounded power, comes from not broadcasting at all? What if the real win is when you choose to step away from the noise? Not because you're afraid to speak, but because you've realized your energy is sacred. There's a moment in life when you stop chasing what's shiny and start seeking what's real. That moment happens when you decide to protect your energy by focusing inward, not outward. You start noticing that every opinion doesn't deserve a reaction, every criticism doesn't warrant a defense, and every invitation to drama is one you're allowed to decline. You begin to realize how expensive your energy really is, how rare your peace actually is, and how often you've spent both too freely. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. It's the only way to get honest with yourself about what matters and what doesn't. When you make that decision, when you choose to turn the lens inward, you stop being defined by the expectations of others. You no longer bend just to be liked, or shrink just to be accepted. You begin to build in silence, heal in silence, and grow in silence. You stop seeking validation because you've already given it to yourself. There's no need to announce what you're doing or explain why you're quiet. Your progress isn't for performance. It's personal. The world doesn't need to understand your silence, it just needs to get used to your absence from things that drain you. The truth is, focusing on yourself is hard. It means confronting the parts of you that you've ignored by staying distracted. It means facing the discomfort of not being seen, not being praised, not being clapped for. But in that space of stillness, something amazing happens. You start remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. You start seeing clearly. You start listening more, really listening not just to others, but to yourself. Your inner voice gets louder, more confident, not arrogant, certain, rooted. When you pull your focus away from comparison, from competition, and from chaos, you start to recognize what's actually aligned with your spirit. You start making decisions not from pressure, but from peace. You protect your mornings. You choose your company. You say no more often. Not because you're trying to be difficult, but because you're no longer interested in moving backwards. The things that used to excite you might feel dull now, and that's okay. That's how you know you're evolving. Your growth isn't loud. It's quiet, intentional, and deeply personal. People may not understand what you're doing. They may misread your silence, question your choices, or call your detachment cold. Let them. Their opinions don't pay your peace. You don't owe anyone access to your process. There is a quiet kind of power in being okay without explaining yourself, in choosing peace over proving, in deciding that your energy isn't available to just anyone. That kind of clarity doesn't happen when you're busy trying to be seen. It happens when you're still enough to see yourself. You don't need to be everywhere. You don't need to respond to everything. You don't need to keep showing up for things that don't serve your future. Let people wonder. Let them assume. Let the world keep moving loudly while you move quietly. Because when you focus on yourself and stay silent, things begin to align. Not because you forced them, but because you finally got out of your own way. You stopped pouring into the wrong spaces and started watering your own roots. You stopped chasing and started attracting. You stopped reacting and started reflecting. That's when things shift. That's when the right people show up, the right paths open, and the right opportunities find their way to you. All because you made one decision to protect your energy by focusing inward, not outward. Silence has a reputation problem. It's often mistaken for weakness, for passivity, for having nothing to say. But the truth is, silence is one of the strongest statements you can make. It's not an absence, it's a choice. In a culture where noise is constant and reaction is rewarded, choosing to remain silent is powerful. It says you don't need to defend, to compete, to perform. It says you are in control of your emotions, your responses, and your energy. Silence is the space between impulse and wisdom. It's where you find clarity. It's where you pause long enough to ask yourself, is this worth my peace? And more often than not, the answer is no. Strength isn't always about speaking up. Sometimes it's about holding back, not out of fear, but out of discipline. The ability to stay silent when provoked, misunderstood, or challenged is not weakness, it's mastery. Anyone can react. Anyone can argue. Anyone can post, comment, shout, and clap back. But it takes strength to be still, to listen, to observe, and to decide consciously how and whether you want to respond. Silence gives you time to collect your thoughts, not to win an argument, but to rise above the need for one. It gives you the space to understand that your peace is worth more than proving a point. It shows you that silence isn't giving up, it's letting go of what doesn't serve you. There's a kind of silent confidence that speaks louder than any words ever could. It's the presence of someone who knows who they are without needing to explain. You feel it in the way they carry themselves, the way they enter a room without announcing it, the way they choose their words carefully or choose not to speak at all. They don't need to be the loudest to be the most respected. Their silence isn't a void, it's a boundary. It's them saying, I don't owe you my reaction. It's them choosing peace over ego, clarity over chaos, and growth over validation. Silence also protects you. It keeps you from saying things you'll regret, from feeding fires that should burn out, from being pulled into situations that aren't meant for you. When you're silent, you're not disengaged, you're selective. You're choosing to engage with purpose, with intention, not just out of emotion. Silence teaches you patience. It teaches you that not everything needs to be fixed right now, explained right now, or responded to right now. Some things are best left unanswered. Some moments are best observed, not interrupted. There's also a creative power in silence. When you're not distracted by constant noise, you start to hear yourself again. Your thoughts settle. Your vision clears. You begin to understand your own voice, not the voice shaped by external opinions or social expectations. This is where real transformation happens, in the quiet moments, in the stillness that the world rarely encourages but desperately needs. Silence is where you reconnect with your values, your direction, your truth. It's where you find the courage to change without needing applause for it. People often fear silence because it forces them to face what's within. The quiet can be uncomfortable. It can expose the thoughts and feelings we've buried under busyness and distractions. But that discomfort is necessary. It's the beginning of awareness. It's where healing begins. Silence invites you to reflect, to check in with yourself, to ask hard questions that only you can answer. And in that process, you become stronger, not louder, not tougher, but more centered, more grounded, more resilient. In relationships, silence can be an act of love. It can mean listening deeply without planning your response. It can mean giving space instead of pressure. It can mean allowing someone the dignity of their own process instead of trying to fix them. Silence doesn't mean absence, it means presence without interference. It's about holding space, not filling it. And sometimes it's the most respectful thing you can offer. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to justify your boundaries or narrate your journey. Some things are meant to be kept sacred. Some growth is meant to happen privately. Not everything needs to be broadcasted or validated. There's strength in knowing that your life doesn't need to be a constant performance. There's power in being at peace with your own silence. When you stop needing to be understood by everyone, you free yourself from the exhausting loop of constant explanation. You begin to live from within, not for the outside. You begin to speak less, but say more. You begin to realize that silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of strength.